Iceni tribe who led a rebellion against Roman rule in ancient Britain. Her uprising, though ultimately unsuccessful, remains one of the most significant challenges to Roman authority in Britannia. Born as a noble in the year 30 of Common Era, Boudica married Prasutagus, king of the Iceni in eastern Britain. They had 2 daughters, and when the Romans invaded in the year 43 of Common Era, Prasutagus allied with them, ruling as a nominally independent king. Upon Prasutagus' death in the year 60 of Common Era, Rome moved to annex Iceni territory, disregarding his will. Roman officials seized Iceni property and assaulted Boudica and her daughters. These actions sparked intense resentment amongst the Britons. Boudica emerged as a charismatic leader, uniting various tribes against Roman rule. Her army, estimated at 100,000 strong warriors, first attacked Camulodunum, which is modern Colchester, destroying the symbol of Roman occupation. Then they marched on Londinium, which is today's London, and Verulamium, which is St. Albans, burning them to the ground. The rebellion's initial success sent shockwaves throughout the Roman Empire. Governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, campaigning in Wales, hurried back to confront Boudica's army. The decisive battle took place possibly near Walpole Street. Boudica's larger but less organized forces fought the Roman legions, but despite their numerical advantage, the Britons were defeated, and Boudica is believed to have poisoned herself to avoid capture. Though the rebellion failed, Boudica's legacy remains to this day. She became a symbol of British resilience and defiance against oppression. Her story, largely forgotten for centuries, was revived during the Victorian era and remains a powerful narrative in British history and popular culture. And now, some fun facts. Boudica was described as unusually tall, with a harsh voice and piercing gaze. She reportedly had long, reddish-brown hair that hung to her hips. Before beginning her march, Boudica would supposedly release a rabbit from her skirt as a divination. The rabbit hopped in a lucky direction, and Boudica prayed loudly to Andraste, the Celtic goddess of victory. A bronze statue of Boudica in her war chariot, accompanied by her daughters, stands near Westminster Bridge in London, facing the Houses of Parliament. She has been featured in numerous books, films, TV shows, and even video games, becoming a symbol of British resistance and female leadership.
Alfred the Great was the King of Wessex and one of English history's most prominent rulers. In fact, he was the only king in Britain to be given the title Great. Reigning from 871, he inherited the throne during Danish invasions and the difficult political situation following the death of his brother, King Ethelred I. Despite changing circumstances, Alfred successfully consolidated and defended his kingdom. Born around 847 in Wantage, Oxfordshire, Alfred was the youngest son of King Ethelwulf and Queen Osburh. At around age 5, he traveled to Rome with his father, and there he was welcomed by Pope Leo IV, who blessed him as a king. Historians of the Victorian era have interpreted this as Alfred's coronation act. However, this event is unlikely, considering that Alfred had 3 older brothers. Alfred also spent a year at the court of King Charles the Bold of the Franks, and then returned to Britain. Alfred's father died in 858, and the throne passed through his brothers Ethelbald, Ethelbert, and Ethelred. Alfred became king in 871. He was coronated after Ethelred's death from wounds received in battle. He initially struggled against the Danes, who inflicted heavy losses and captured territories. In 878, after escaping a Danish attack on Chippenham, Alfred regrouped and assembled an army. An interesting story emerged from this period. During his escape, Alfred found refuge with a woman who, not having recognized the king, told him to watch over baking bread. However, Alfred became complacent about the kingdom's misfortunes and forgot about the bread, which burned. He was taunted for this by the woman on her return. After realizing the visitor's identity, the woman began to apologize. The king then replied that it was up to him to ask for forgiveness. His forces achieved a crucial victory at the Battle of Edington, leading to the Treaty of Wedmore. The treaty granted the Danes control of the northeast, establishing the Dane law, while Alfred ruled the southwest. To strengthen his defense, Alfred reorganized the military, introducing faster, more durable ships and rearranging the militia, so-called the Fyrd. He improved fortifications by establishing new strongholds with permanent garrisons, which evolved into major towns and trade centers. Alfred revitalized education and culture, founding monasteries and inviting foreign scholars to his court. He founded the palace school and supported education for all, not just the elite. Alfred translated Latin works into Old English and encouraged the writing of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle in national language. Alfred died on the 26th of October 899 and was initially buried at Old Minster, Winchester. His remains were later moved to New Minster and then to Hyde Abbey when they were rediscovered in the 1990s. Alfred's reign left a lasting impact on England's defense, culture, and education.
On 7th September 1533, Henry VIII was preparing to announce the birth of a son, but a second daughter, Elizabeth, arrived instead. Her mother, Anne Boleyn, soon fell out of favor with her husband and was beheaded. Living in a world educated by her father and close family whims, Elizabeth could never be too certain of her position or her life. But despite all this, she rose to become known as one of England's greatest rulers. Elizabeth's childhood was not auspicious. After her mother's death, she and her sister Mary were declared illegitimate. Soon after, the third Henry's marriage produced their half-brother Edward, finally giving the king what he wanted, a male heir. Elizabeth spent most of her childhood doing what she was best at, learning. By the age of 12, she could write English, Latin, and Italian, and soon after French and Greek. She began translating prayers and later throughout her life numerous classical works. When her father finally took his last breath, the reign of her brother Edward VI started. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it wasn't long. He died after only 6 years of sitting on the throne. During these times, Elizabeth was often molested by her uncle Thomas Seymour, the new husband of her latest stepmother, with whom she then lived. Edward's will ignored the Succession to the Crown Act and excluded Mary and Elizabeth from the succession, instead declaring Lady Jane Grey as his heir. Through Jane's support quickly crumbled, and she was deposed after only 9 days. Then Mary became queen and ruled with a hard Catholic hand, which almost cost Protestant Elizabeth alive when a religious rebellion broke out. She was imprisoned in the Tower of London and later kept in house arrest for nearly a year. Mary's reign was quite bloody but short. During its 5 years, she fell deadly ill and soon declared Elizabeth her sole heir. Elizabeth became queen at age 25 and made it immediately clear that she intended to rule in more than name only. She would not subordinate her judgment to that of any one individual or faction. She never married and was often called Virgin Queen to show that the country doesn't need a man to be ruled well. Elizabeth enjoyed music and theatre. She created Queen Elizabeth's Men, a royal troupe that went on to entertain her court frequently. Meanwhile, playwrights William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe and composers Thomas Tallis and William Byrd were all entertaining audiences during her reign, earning it the name of the Golden Age. During her reign, Philip II of Spain assembled a great fleet of his best and largest warships called the Armada, navy specially prepared by the Queen in one of the most famous naval battles of history, defeated the Spanish fleet. Dressed in a white gown and a silver breastplate, Elizabeth rode through the camp and said to her soldiers, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." This scene exemplified her courage and her strategic identification with martial virtues considered male. She was very concerned with her public image. When traveling through the counties, she rode on horseback and not carriage to show unity with her people. She wore heavy lead-based makeup to cover up her smallpox scars, though it may have later been a cause of her demise. Elizabeth died on 24th March 1603, thus ending the long reign of the Tudor dynasty.
Jane Austen was an English writer whose 6 novels are considered to be one of the best in British literature. And although she lived a relatively short life, she managed to create a legacy of timeless books which made her known worldwide. She was born December 16, 1775 in Steventon, England. She had 6 brothers and an older sister named Cassandra. Jane's family was very caring and supportive of her education. At the age of 15, Jane decided to become an author, starting with satires and plays. In 1795, Jane met her neighbor's nephew, Tom Lefroy. The two of them noticeably started to spend a lot of time together, and an affection began to spark between them. 20-year-old Jane admitted to falling in love with the young man in letters to her sister Cassandra. Tom himself later referred to Jane as his boyish love. Unfortunately, Lefroy's family expected him to marry rich, as he was being supported by them while in school studying to become a barrister, and was sent away. Jane was never to see the love of her life again. Tom eventually married and named his eldest daughter Jane. Some speculate it is no coincidence the plot of Pride and Prejudice resembles this story so much, and that the novel is based on the author's life. Austen received only one proposal of marriage that we know of, from a childhood friend, Harris Vick Wither. She accepted it, knowing it would be beneficial for her family. Mr. Bigwither was due to inherit a sizable amount of real estate and was well off, which would mean the comfort of being provided for and for her family's future. However, she revoked her acceptance the next day as she did not love him. She believed in true love and did not want to settle for marriage of convenience. In a letter to her niece a few years later, she advised the girl not to wed unless the affection is there, just like the heroines of her novels. Because in the 18th century it was difficult for a woman to make a living for herself, Jane decided to publish anonymously through her father or her brother. The first novel of hers to be published was Sense and Sensibility in 1811, signed by a woman. It became a financial success. Next was Pride and Prejudice in 1813, which turned out to be an instant success. After having published 4 novels, Jane fell ill and at the age of 41 was confined to bed. She died July 18, 1817. Her brother submitted her last books, Northanger Abbey and Persuasion, post-mortem, and unveiled Jane Austen as the authoress of all 6 of her works. In many ways, Jane Austen embodied her characters. She was thought to have been a very spirited, headstrong woman. Unfortunately, we do not know much about her as Cassandra destroyed most of the novelist's personal belongings and letters to keep the privacy of her beloved sister.
Hello. So, let's talk about Princess Diana.
Diana Frances Spencer, more famously known as Princess Di, was the first wife of the current King of England, Charles III, and mother of Prince William of Wales and Prince Henry, also called Harry. Not many people know that from the beginning, Diana was part of the British nobility. Her father was the Viscount of Althorp, and she grew up playing with the Queen Elizabeth II's 2 younger sons, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward. From the get-go, she was involved with the British royals, but as we know, she would become much closer with them. Since Diana's marriage to Charles had a major impact not only on her, but on the entire world as well, it cannot be skipped when discussing the late princess's life. Her friendship with Charles blossomed around 1980, and as they grew closer, the press started to gossip about a potential secret romance between the two. Try as they might, the palace wasn't able to contain the rumors spread by the press. And so the perfect pair's engagement became official in February 1981. The wedding took place in St. Paul's Cathedral and was televised for millions to see. And the millions of people actually sat down and watched in awe as the 20-year-old Diana became a member of the British royal family. Unfortunately, signs of an unhappy marriage became clearer with each year, especially when Prince Charles confessed on national television that he was unfaithful to his wife. That caused one of, if not the most iconic fashion look that Princess Di ever wore, the revenge dress. It broke all the rules of the royal dress code. This back and forth led up to the 26th of August, 1996, when the couple's divorce became official. Although the marriage itself was rather painful for Diana, she still managed to do so much good, even after the official divorce with Charles. He may not have cherished Diana, but the rest of the world certainly did. She became an international icon, winning over people's hearts with her empathy, kindness, and sense of style. During her official visit to the United States, she was much more popular in the eyes of American citizens than the US president himself. And as we know, it's hard for Americans to love anything outside of their great nation. Princess Di has also visited other countries around the globe, and her popularity allowed her to shed light on important issues. She went to Angola and walked through a cleared path of a minefield to bring awareness on the devastating impact of landmines. She also talked, shook hands, and even hugged AIDS patients to prove that contact with the victims of the disease was risk-free. Another revolutionary thing that separated Diana from the other British royals was how she raised her two sons, William and Harry. She insisted that her children should go to a public school rather than hire private teachers, causing William to be the first male heir to go to kindergarten. Di also made sure to spend as much quality time as she could with her two boys. She walked them to school herself, participated in a mother's race during sports day, and took her sons to fast food restaurants. It's not every day that you get to imagine the future King of England eating at McDonald's. This kind of upbringing wasn't common in the royal household and changed the game for future royal families. Many famous people also kept a special place in their hearts for the princess. Diana managed to easily bond with famous singer Elton John, Mother Teresa, and even Michael Jackson. He claimed to be so much in love with her after just one meeting that he wanted to marry her. Diana was a breath of fresh air for the royal family and for the world itself. She is fondly remembered to this day, with numerous books, films, and even a musical written about her can confirm. Diana was truly an influential figure in history, and she is certainly still the queen of our hearts.